What's going on, guys? Ted from Immersion here, and I'm back with another Unearthed Arcana review. Unfortunately, on two accounts, this is the last of the weekly Unearthed Arcana review. We've been blessed with these weekly releases for what seems like months. I mean, it's obviously been all of this year and the tail end, about 6 months, I think, overall. So that's really exciting, but it's sad to see it go. Granted, it is not going away. It is just resuming its original cadence, its release cadence, which is once to possibly twice a month if something needs to be done. Unfortunately, I am also 50-50, 1 for 2 on my prediction for the new Unearthed Arcana. I had predicted Feats last time, and we got Feats, and I had predicted for this one new items, equipment, and armor. I was really hoping to see things like a 2d6 piercing weapon, a versatile finesse weapon, which I realize is kind of contradictory, a d12 bludgeoning weapon, things like that. And then potentially new options for armor, specifically the folks that use light armor and heavy armor. They don't really have a lot of leeway. You've got 3 options and 3 options, whereas the medium armor folks have a handful of in-between. Maybe a buckler and tower shield, things people are familiar with from other editions. But we didn't get that. We got Feats for races, so that's enough of me talking about that. Let's roll into it. First of all, at first glance, some of these may seem ridiculously overpowered. Some of them, you could argue, are. Others, I don't know. I'll kind of go through these with you guys and see what you guys think. But they are tied to the races, but they're also only tied to the player's handbook races, which I feel, with Unearthed Arcana going out of the way to make stuff to expand the options, especially given the fact that in one of the more recent releases, which is one of the only times I can truly think of it, with the Hexblade and the Raven Queen, the kind of Warlock and Wizard Unearthed Arcana, they gave us new invocations for a Warlock patron that was only from Unearthed Arcana, which there's a lot of new races and options they've added, but more specifically, they have everything from the Elemental Evil Guide, so that's Deep Gnomes, that's Goliaths, Genasi, Aarakocra, those are all added. Then you have everything from Volo's Guide, which was just released. Granted, those races did get a little bit more polish on them because they were newer, but still, I mean, everybody wants feats tied, I feel like, class-specific and race-specific feats. It really lets you sort of get that whole, I'm a paragon of my race or of my class. I'm going to spend a feat, which is a potential stat increase, ability score increase, or, you know, other useful feats, like things like Alert, or Tough, or Lucky, Great Weapon Master, Sharpshooter, things like that. Foregoing things like that that are always on, and potential significant increases to damage or utility things that make your character better, to take something tied to a race. Like, I don't know, previous to this, Deep Gnomes were the only race that had a feat tied to them, and that's this Svirfneblin Magic, which got you, I think, non-detection at will, and then a handful of other innate spellcasting like Blur and things like that. So, what do we have? First off, we have Barbed Hide. I think Tieflings and Dragonborn got the big love in this one. Tieflings got some really powerful ones. So, first of all, +1 to your Charisma or Constitution, so that's good. You're not sacrificing a full ability score increase here. As a bonus action, you cause small barbs to protrude all over your body. At the start of each of your turns, you deal 1d6 piercing damage to any creature grappling you, or a creature grappled by you. I think that's important because if you grapple someone, you can grapple them with one hand and still fight with your other hand, but that's just a free d6 piercing damage while you're holding them and punching them, or stabbing them, or slashing them, or casting magic in their face, whatever the situation may be. Not that you're going to see a lot of Tiefling Barbarians, but this is kind of cool, and it also grants you proficiency in the Intimidation skill, and double proficiency, aka expertise, if you already have it. Really cool. I think this is probably, yeah, it says it right there. Some sort of Barb Devil or other spiky fiend was the kind of fiendish heritage in your past. I like it. It's got flavor. Bountiful Luck for Halflings. Whenever an ally you can see within 30 feet of you rolls a 1 on a d20 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can use a reaction to let that ally re-roll the die. They must use the new roll. This is one that at first myself and several others, it jumped out at them as like, holy shit, this is way overpowered. But upon further reflection and reading through the rest of the feats, I really don't think it's overpowered. I feel like it's fairly balanced. So the reason behind this is Halflings have that reroll. If you roll a 1 on a d20 roll for an attack, ability, check, or saving throw, as a Halfling, you get to reroll it taking the new die. This is letting you essentially grant that to somebody else, but let's talk about the specifics. They have to be within 30 feet, so that's 1. 2, it's your reaction. You only get 1 reaction a turn, and you are using it to grant your ally a reroll of a natural 1. So first of all, your ally has to roll a natural 1. Second, you need to be within 30 feet of them. And third, you still need to have your reaction. If all 3 of those are met, then you can let them re-roll. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make the check, because they could still get a 2 or 3. They could get another 1. They have to take the new number. Granted, chances are you're going to get better than a 1, but they won't necessarily make it. And, you know, you could use your reaction to do that, and then all of the enemies that are surrounding you can just move away for free. No opportunity attacks because you tried to help your buddy out. Don't get me wrong. That's great, and you should definitely play as a team and help your party out. But I don't think it's OP because there's just so many caveats that have to happen. And as, again, a reminder, you are giving up other feats and an ability score improvement to do this. If you're playing a Halfling Rogue, maybe you use your one of your extra ability score improvements, or a Halfling Fighter to kind of use that. That, I think, could be good because as a Halfling Fighter, you'd have a ton of extra ability score and or feat options. Well, not a ton, 2 more than normal, but anyway. Critter Friend. This is more of a flavor one for Forest Gnomes only. Proficiency in Animal Handling. If you're already proficient, you get double proficiency. You can cast Speak with Animals at will, and you also learn Animal Friendship, which you can cast once without using a spell slot. You regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest, and Intelligence is the spellcasting ability for this. Now we have all the Dragonborn ones. Dragon Fear. +1 to Strength or Charisma. Very useful for a Dragonborn. Specifically, in this case, I'm guessing... I feel like Dragonborns were... I'm not saying that it's true, but I feel like they really want them to be paladins, giving them the strength and charisma boost. So this, again, furthering that. Instead of exhaling destructive energy, you can roar and expend a use of your breath weapon to force each creature of your choice within 30 feet to make a wisdom saving throw. DC 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your charisma modifier. Target automatically succeeds if it can't hear or see you. On a failed save, the target becomes frightened for a minute. If the frightened target takes any damage, it can repeat the saving throw, ending the effect on itself as on a success. So, first of all, your breath weapon as a Dragonborn uses your Constitution modifier. So this one uses your Charisma. Granted, everybody's going to want to have a good Constitution. If you're using the example I said where you're playing a Paladin, you're going to have a good Strength, typically, Charisma, and a Constitution. So you've got that. But it says expend a use of your breath weapon, which I get it, but the way that that's written makes me feel like Dragonborn should have more than 1 breath weapon use. I know it's once per short rest, but when you say expend a use of your breath weapon, makes me feel like you'll still have multiple uses. In my mind, it should say you can use your breath weapon. I don't know. The wording seems a little wonky to me. Perhaps if Dragonborn got to use it multiple times per short rest, like Constitution modifier times per short rest, I don't think that that's OP because it's not the most damage. And chances are, if you are, again, using that example, playing a Paladin, that little bit of AoE, whether it be cone or line, you're seriously hurting for that. And it's your game, do what you want, but I don't think that that's overpowered. A couple extra breath weapons per short rest, not a huge deal. You're going to be doing on, you know, it's, I think at the most it's 5d6, and that's at like level 17. And again, if you have this, it's charisma, and you've got charisma and con, you're kind of split multiple ways. But anyway, Dragonhide. Increase your strength or charisma, again, by 1 to a maximum of 20. You grow retractable claws from the tips of your fingers. Extending and retracting claws is no action. They're natural weapons, which you can use to make your unarmed strikes. If you hit, they deal slashing damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength modifier instead of bludgeoning damage. Not crazy overpowered. You know, a monk can kind of beat that out. They're tied at level 1. They don't have to spend a feat. But it's cool. Dragon Claws, plus strength or charisma plus 1. So you could technically take Dragon Fear and Dragon Hide and get, you know, from level 4 and level 8 and get plus 2 strength or plus 2 charisma or 1 and 1. And then your scales harden. You gain a plus 1 bonus to AC while you aren't wearing armor. Dragonborns get a plus 2 strength, plus 1 charisma. Again, I feel like they're more designed to be martial than caster. Granted, that's not always the case. I understand that. But I think a flat just plus 1 to your AC just plus 1 to your AC for a feat. I mean, there are other feats that do other things, like dual wield that gives you a plus 1 to your AC while you're dual wielding weapons. I think if you just nix that while you aren't wearing armor part and just make it a plus 1 bonus to AC, I don't think that that's crazy overpowered, personally. Lastly, Dragon Wings. With your wings, you have a flying speed of 20 feet if you aren't wearing heavy armor and aren't exceeding your carrying capacity. Again, there are several other classes that offer you the ability to gain wings. The only caveat is your armor needs to accommodate said wings. I don't know, I might nix the heavy... I get it, you know, but if you're truly dragon wings, dragons are pretty big and bulky with the basically equivalent of plate mail in their scales. I might just give them the 20 feet of movement, even in heavy armor. Again, maybe I'm adding too many features. I just feel like there could be some tweaks here. Drow High Magic. I really like this. It kind of reminds me of some of the Forgotten Realms of Drizzt novels and things like that, and the Drow noble feats, race feats of old. But you learn Detect Magic and can cast it at will without expending a slot, and you learn Levitate and Dispel Magic once without spending a slot using Charisma for your spellcasting ability. I'm super pumped. I'm probably going to use this in my Storm King's Thunder character because Pat, the DM, he ruled that because my character is a half-elf Drow variant from Sword Coast Adventures Guide, he qualifies for the Drow Magic feature, and as a Warlock, Levitate and Dispel Magic is very big, and Detect Magic at will saves me using an invocation for it. Dwarven Resilience. For dwarves, obviously. Con +1. When you take the dodge action in combat, you can spend 1 hit die to heal yourself. Roll the die, add your Constitution modifier, and gain a number of hit points equal to the total. So that is limited only to the number of hit die you have, but it is when you take the dodge action, and I don't, again, typically, dwarves are not going to be a race that has, or not going to typically, not always the case, but not typically going to play a class, rather, that has bonus action dodge abilities. Although if you did have haste or something like that, being able to have all attacks against you at disadvantage and also being able to heal as part of it is nice. I mean, a dwarven rogue, that would be big. Same thing, again, a dwarven monk. Both of these options would give you heals as well. Not bad. Elvin Accuracy, this one I find supremely lacking. Elf or half-elf, dexterity +1. Whenever you have advantage on an attack roll, you can re-roll one of the dice once. Is that the attack dice, or is that the damage dice? It doesn't say. My brain automatically went to the damage dice, but because it's called Elven Accuracy, it might be when you have advantage, you roll both dice, and then you can pick up one of those dice. Like, let's say you have advantage, and you roll 10 and a 2, you could pick up that 2 and roll it again, and then if you roll higher than that, you take that number. And now that I'm thinking of it that way, it's a little bit more powerful, and it's not tied to ranged versus melee, or spell even. So anytime you make an attack roll, that may be again, just in my example, because I automatically went to damage re-rolling once, but if it is one of the die, that's pretty big, because that means anytime you have advantage, you're essentially rolling 3 dice, not 2. So maybe that's a little bit better. Half-Elf, everybody's friend. Charisma goes up by 1, and you get proficiency in Deception and Persuasion. This, I think, may have been a typo, but if you're already proficient in either skill, your proficiency bonus is doubled for any check. Oh, with that skill. For some reason, in my head, I'd read it as if you're proficient in either one, you get expertise in both. But if you're proficient in Deception and Persuasion, you would get double the proficiency bonus. So that's a potential way to get 2 charisma-based face, party face skills, a +1 to your charisma, or expertise, essentially, in 2 other ones. Fade Away, this is gnome specific. Intelligence goes up by 1. When you take damage, you can use your reaction to magically become invisible until the end of your next turn, or until you attack, deal damage, or force someone to make a saving throw. Once you use this ability, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. Again, that is short rest utility, and you can heal because it only specifies attack roll, dealing damage, or forcing someone to make a saving throw. Fade Teleportation, this is High Elf specific. Intelligence +1, and you get 1 use of Misty Step without using a spell slot, once per short or long rest. Flames of Phlegethon, this is a tiefling one. Increase your intelligence or charisma by 1. When you roll fire damage for a spell you cast, you can reroll any 1 on the fire damage die, but you must choose the new roll, even if it's another 1. And whenever you cast a spell that deals fire damage, flames wreathe around you. Flames don't harm you or your possessions, and you shed light. While the flames are present, they last, by the way, when you cast this fire spell, until the end of your next turn. While the flames are present, any creature within 5 feet of you that hits you with a melee attack takes a d4 fire damage. Again, not bad. Boost to your stats. The ability to reroll 1s on damage dice is pretty nice, because it's just anytime you deal fire damage, and then, you know, that's potentially some free kind of reactive damage as well. And technically, when you roll fire damage, okay, that's not a spell, I was going to say, because then you can reroll the 1s on the d4. Grudge Bear for Dwarf, this is essentially like a favored enemy. You choose a type of creature, there's a whole bunch of lists here. Increase your Strength, Constitution, or Wisdom by 1. During the first round of any combat against your chosen foe, your attack rolls against any of them have advantage. Potentially big for a fighter if you go first. Actually, no. First round of combat. So if you have 3 attacks, all 3 of your attacks would have advantage for that first round of combat. When any of your chosen foes make an opportunity attack against you, those opportunity attacks have disadvantage. And whenever you make an Arcana, History, Nature, or Religion check to recall information about your chosen foe, you add double your proficiency bonus, even if you're not normally proficient. So that is like Stone Cunning, but to recall information. At first I kind of brushed this one off. I think it's actually pretty good, especially because it gives you the stat boost. And if you choose humanoids, you get to choose 2. Human, called Human Determination, increase an ability score of your choice by 1. When you make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can do so with advantage. Once you use this ability, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. It does say when you make the roll, so this isn't one of those ones where you can choose to re-roll a second time after you failed. You have to choose it ahead of time. Once per short rest. Not huge on this one. Advantage once per short rest on one thing. Could be big, but again, it seems like you have to make that before you roll. You just say, alright, they need to make this save, I'm rolling with advantage. There's another one coming later that humans can get that I think is way better. Okay, Infernal Constitution. This one I love. I think this really helps, in my mind personally, with a couple of these other ones, to bolster the idea of a Tiefling Paladin. Con goes up by 1. Resistant to cold and poison damage, and advantage on saving throws against being poisoned. Inborn Tieflings have fire resistance. You take this feat, you are resistant to fire, cold, and poison. 3 of the arguably more common damage types you're going to encounter in playing a game. Con goes up, so potentially extra health and advantage on saving throws against poison. If you're a Tiefling Paladin, you're also immune to disease. So these kind of combo very well, and at level 6, you would have your Charisma modifier to all of your saving throws. Could be pretty big. And then if you were Oath of the Ancients, let's say, you would then also have half damage from spells at level 7, and you'd be resistant to 3 types. You could severely mitigate the damage against you. Half-Orc, this is Orcish Aggression. As a bonus action, you can move up to your speed towards an enemy of your choice that you can see or hear. Your move must put you closer to the enemy than when you started. This is the kind of aggression feature that orcs have. Not great, but it is a bonus action, essentially a dash, more or less, just as part of a feat. I don't know, not really crazy about that one. Orcish Fury, however, your strength or con go up by 1. When you hit with a melee attack with a simple or martial weapon, you can roll one of the weapon's damage die an additional time and add its extra damage to the weapon's damage type. That is once per short or long rest, which is not bad to get just a little bit of extra damage, especially if you're using something like a Great Axe. That's an extra d12, and then if you crit, you could add that extra damage, and then it would be doubled, as far as I can tell. And immediately after you use your Relentless Endurance, so this is when you go down to 0 and pop back up to 1, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack. So, again, that is once per long rest Relentless Endurance, but you just popped up with 1 HP and you make an attack. If you roll well, that could potentially take that enemy out and end the combat for you. Pretty useful. I was talking about a better one for humans. This is both for human and half-elves, the Prodigy feat. +1 to an ability score of your choice, and then you gain a proficiency in a skill, a tool, and a language. That's big, I think, personally. You have one of those ability scores that's either useful, maybe tertiary to what you need for your class, and you can get that one from an odd to an even, get a new skill, get a new tool, which with the new downtime activities, tool proficiencies could be very good. And who can't use another language? It doesn't specify which, it's a language of your choice. So that makes me feel like you can get an exotic language, which could be very big if you're playing through a game and then all of a sudden you really need that one type of language to make things easier. This is the opportunity. Halflings, Second Chance. Increase your Dex, Con, or Charisma by 1. When a creature you see hits you with an attack roll, you can use your reaction to force them to reroll. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until a short or long rest. It is when they hit you with an attack roll, so you can potentially turn a hit into a miss. Not bad. Squat Nimbleness. I really like this one. First, the smaller rate, the folk, the dwarves, gnomes, and halfling. Increase your strength or dex by 1. Increase your movement speed by 5. And gain proficiency in acrobatics or athletics. And if you're already proficient in that skill, you get expertise, double proficiency in it. I think this is fantastic for all you dwarven battle ragers out there. You can get a +1 to your strength or your dex. Increase your movement speed. You're a barbarian, so that extra movement is going to be coupled with your existing extra movement. And if you want to be a grappler, you're a barbarian. You probably already have proficiency in athletics. This gives you, without having to take that 1 level rogue dip to get expertise, you now have that expertise to make your grapple checks that much stronger. Wonder Maker, again, I like this one a lot for the flavor too. If you're a rock gnome, you can kind of tinker and make things. +1 dex, +1 intelligence. When you're using your tinker's tools, you add double the proficiency bonus to that. And when you use your tinker trait, you can choose to make the additional following options. Alarm, this device senses when a creature moves within 15 feet without speaking aloud. A password chosen when you create it 1 round after the creature moves into range. The alarm makes a shrill ringing that lasts for a minute and can be heard up to 300 feet away. Calculator, to add things up. Lifter, this device can be used as a block and tackle, allowing users to hoist 5 times the weight they can normally lift. Timekeeper, pocket watch that keeps accurate time. And weather sensor, when used as an action, this device predicts weather conditions in a 1-mile radius over the next 4 hours, showing 1 symbol: clouds, sun/moon, rain, or snow for each hour. And lastly, Wood Elf magic. Again, tied to Wood Elves. You learn a Druid cantrip of your choice, and you learn Long Strider and Pass Without a Trace, each of which you can cast once without using a spell slot. And this ability, you recharge this on a long rest, and Wisdom is your spellcasting ability for that. I super like that. Your Wood Elf Druid now potentially can get again, you're a druid. If that may mean you're pretty much solely focused on your wisdom modifier, because most of your abilities will come from that, specifically a moon druid, where you're going to be shifting out of various forms. That's an additional druid cantrip for you, and 2 very powerful spells, Longstrider and Pass Without Trace, both of which are concentration. I believe, maybe Longstrider's not, but you can maintain the concentration on Pass Without a Trace while in animal form, and it doesn't make you have to use your spell slots. Again, or maybe you're a wood elf rogue, and this gets you a little more thematic magic. Let me know what you guys think about these feats. I went through all of them. I kind of gave you my opinion on what I think. I think there's some really powerful options. I am seriously considering playing a tiefling again. I do enjoy playing tieflings, so I think this could be very fun, especially with some of these new feats out there. Let me know what you guys think. Are you bummed that the last weekly Unearthed Arcana release was feats again? Or were you starving for additional feats, sort of like I was, getting these, not really knowing that you wanted racial feats, but getting them anyway? Are you bummed, again, like me, that we only got ones for players' handbook races and not any of the additional races? I personally think Goliaths could use some love. I think Goliaths could have made pretty good use of some of these new feats. Maybe Genasi too. I think they're a really cool race. I don't think I see enough of them. So Genasi and Goliaths, I think, would be pretty cool. But anyway, guys, we'll see. I mean, this series won't stop. It'll go on a minor hiatus till we get the next Unearthed Arcana release. But when we do, I'm going to anticipate when the next one's going to be. I don't think it's going to be next week, although typically the first Monday of the month is when we get an Unearthed Arcana release prior to this weekly release, so we may get a little bit of a treat and get one next Monday. I really don't know. We'll have to see. But we also will be on the lookout for Sage Advice articles making a comeback monthly as well, because that was sort of the Sage Advice took a backseat to Unearthed Arcana. Now Unearthed Arcana is going back to normal cadence. Maybe we'll get more Sage Advice. That is official rules answers from the folks at Wizards of the Coast to our questions about various rules and what they mean. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. It got a little long-winded, but I was passionate about these. I think there's a lot of cool stuff, and I wanted to get my opinion out there to all of you. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.